All right, so welcome to Unit 2 exam review. This one was about graphing, and there are some things that I'm going to go over in the video that maybe aren't exactly on this page, so make sure you pay attention. First things first, for number 1, which graph best represents the solution? So we've got, first things first, y is less than or equal to. So when we look at these problems, we need to select graphs where the shade is going below the line. So when I say below the line, I mean it's not A and it's not C. Both of those are y is greater than or equal to, and that is not what we're dealing with here. So when we look at B or D, we got to figure out which one best represents absolute value 2x plus 1 minus 3. Well, first things first, I already said that twice already. So maybe it's the third thing now. We've got minus 3 on the outside. Any value that happens on the outside addition or subtraction like this is going to shift our graph down 3 units, and it's down because it's minus. If it were plus, it would be going up. So if we're left to choose between B and D, the only graph that shifted down 3 units was B. So that's the one that we want. Now, I'd like to introduce you to my good friend. Check your answer on Desmos. So I'm going to type this in. Y is less than or equal to absolute value 2x plus 1, and then I tap outside. If you're on a keyboard, use your right key to move outside, minus 3. There we go. Sure enough, that matches graph B. All right. Next, number 2, determine the turning point of the graph and if it's a maximum or a minimum. So when we're looking at this graph, we literally got to figure out, okay, where is it turning around? It's going up, and then it turns around right here to go back down again. So it's got a maximum point right there at the top. That's happening at -1 for the x value, +4 for the y. All right, so that's a maximum at -1, 4. And then here's the extra pieces that I promised. Let's talk about how we would describe this graph's behavior. This graph is increasing. As we start from the left side, we are moving up. All right, so this graph is increasing for x is less than -1. It's increasing over here to the left of that maximum. You could also see -∞, -1. Both of these are statements that describe increasing behavior. The opposite of this, decreasing, is happening after the turning point because it goes up from increasing and it turns around and it starts to decrease. So we are decreasing, x is greater than -1. Or you could also see it as -1, ∞. Gosh darn it, I made an error there. That's supposed to be -∞ to -1, and I wrote -∞ twice. So if you're confused about that, I don't blame you. That's an error. So we are increasing on the left side. We are decreasing on the right side. And let me go ahead and fix this error here, -1. All right, so when we look at these two problems, yes, they are slightly different problems. One is graphing an inequality. Number 2 is graphing a quadratic. And then I went ahead and threw in the bonus of increasing and decreasing. Now I'm gonna go ahead and look at number 3 and 4 before I switch to another video. But when we look at number 3 says approximate the slope and the y-intercept of the line. So that's just asking you to go back to Algebra 1. It's asking you to look at these dots that are kind of hard to see. Sorry. Sketch a line through them. Okay, doesn't have to be perfect, but sketch a line through them. And then when you look at that line, about what is your slope? As a reminder, your slope is your rise over run. And about what is your y-intercept? Well, if we look at this line, up to over, dang, that one's not great. I don't know. It looks like it could be around up 2 over 1. It could be around 1. It could be around 2. All right. My slope is somewhere around there. It is a positive slope. I can definitely confirm that it's a positive slope. But when it comes to approximating it, I'm struggling a little bit. But I can say it looks pretty clear to me that my y-intercept is 2. So this question most likely was taken from a multiple choice question, and you'd have to pick the multiple choice graph that best fit this criteria. So that being said, we'd look for a positive slope with a approximately 2 y-intercept. All right, and then I'll just finish up number 4, and then I'll move to a new video. So number 4, domain and range. Domain being all the x values, range being all the y values. This is a weird graph because if you notice, there are jumps in the graph. So we're only looking at this bar, and then it jumps to the next bar, and then it jumps to the next bar, and then it jumps to the next bar. So basically, our x's start at 0, and then they get covered all the way up to 8. So my domain is from 0 to 8. Marvelous. All right, my domain is from 0 to 8. And then my y values are a little trickier. And this is a graph where it's, it's one of those pay attention to the details kinds of graphs. So my range starts at 1. My y values start at 1. But there is no upwards movement. It's just a flat 1. And then there's a sudden jump to 2. And then a sudden jump to 3, and a sudden jump to 4. What that means is that it doesn't touch anything in between. So all that you get is 1, 2, 3, and 4. You don't get any in between values, so you can't use this inequality symbol here. And technically, that looks like it's an open circle, so I couldn't even put that equal sign. So number 4 is a bit more detailed than you usually see, but it's a really good one to exercise. What does domain mean? Domain means the x values. What does range mean? Range means the y values. So y started at 1, moved to 2, moved to 3, and then stopped right there at 4. All right, and speaking of stopping,